All right, good morning, Trade Pros. It's Monday, July 16th of 2018. Welcome to Market Update. Today I'm going to be spending 45 minutes talking to you about how my weekend went. Just kidding. What I'm going to talk about, though, is the market. That's why it's the Morning Market Update. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Family, friends, and loved ones, we're back to work this morning, and we got quite the work week ahead of us. So the economic calendar picks up this week early on, Monday through Wednesday, and slows down Thursday and Friday. So we're going to be moving on some higher pace. Although you look at the market, and I have to check its pulse. I don't know if it has a heartbeat. It's kind of died overnight. I do think we're going to pick up some volatility, but today might be a slow day. Just prepare yourself for a range-bound, low volatility, low volume sideways drift. That's sort of what I'm seeing. That's what the doctor's prescribing for today. Of course, anything can happen. All right. So in Asia, Japan's up 1.9%. Hong Kong's up 1/10 of a percentage point. China's down 0.6%, and so is India. So overall, a little bit of a mixed bag of nuts here in Asian markets, but Japan leading the way on some of this progress. In Europe at midday, London's down 0.8, Paris is down 0.2, and Frankfurt's up 1/10 of a percent. European markets also mixed. And equities in the United States here, Dow flat, NASDAQ flat, S&P up 1/10, also flat for all intensive purposes. So as you can see, we haven't really had much traction anywhere outside of the early Asian session. We've sort of plateaued and gone sideways. Just to remind you, over the last 2 weeks or so, we've had quite a rally, a tremendous rally. We've taken out the previous high, and at this point, we are likely to consolidate a little bit or even back and fill and drop to fill some sell stops before taking another leg higher, more than likely. All right, so just stay tuned today. We do have some really big events coming up, and I'm going to tell you about them. One of them's today, and it's currently ongoing. It's Donald Trump and Putin meeting. I'll tell you about it in a moment. At 8:30, we had Empire State Manufacturing Survey, and it came out at 22.6 versus 20 expected. And you might think, hey, that's a strong beat. But no, it doesn't matter what analysts expect. It's more important the month-over-month changes. So that being said, new orders, prices paid, shipment, prices received are all lower across the board. So despite it beating expectations were not that great to begin with. So going to a restaurant and expecting a 1 out of 10 meal, food poisoning, and you walk away and you don't have food poisoning, but the food was still terrible. So that's kind of what it was like. No prior revisions as well on Empire State Manufacturing Service, so weak across the board, but still managed to beat expectations that were artificially low. At 8:30, we also had retail sales. June retail sales were up 0.5% versus 0.5% expected. When you strip out the autos component, because very volatile, you have 0.4% versus 0.3 expected. So retail sales minus autos beat expectations. So that's a positive. However, in addition to that, not however, and in addition to that, all priors were revised higher. So that's a pretty bullish retail sales report. Retail sales is important because 80% of the United States economy and GDP is driven by consumption. All right. This morning, we have the most important aviation trade show of the year, attracting about 100,000 trade visitors and all the major plane manufacturers, Boeing, what else? Airbus, Bombardier, and the likes. So all those stocks are going to be in the eye today on the charts. It's the Farnborough International Air Show. It runs until July 22nd. In 2016, the last time they had it in Farnborough, because they alternate, it led to 124 billion in sales and commitments. All right, so that's pretty interesting. So watch, if you have airline stocks, they have to be on the watch today. And if you look to trade them, there's going to be some volatility for day trading stocks. They got to be on your watch list also. All right, Donald Trump is meeting with Vladimir Putin at the moment. So the United States and Russia are having their first official meeting. The last one was just a little bit of a side chat, I believe, during the last G20. But now this is an official meeting between the two nations. It's taking place as requested by the U.S. and Russia complied. There'll be interpreters there. What's going to end up happening is Donald Trump requested that he meet with Putin one-on-one without any additional aides or ambassadors or any other. Just the two of them on a one-on-one basis. That's ongoing at the moment. At the same time, Mike Pompeo from the United States is meeting with the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, alongside with other diplomats to hash out some of the agenda. So there's sort of the meeting with Trump and Putin, and then aside from that, there's the cronies that are also meeting. the agenda is going to look like this. They're going to talk about nuclear proliferation. Proliferation, always a tough word for me to pronounce. You know, as an immigrant, I did immigrate to this country. Wasn't born here. Thank you, Canada, for allowing me to come into your country. I'm sure if you knew I'd turn out like this, you probably wouldn't. But I win. So, anyways, back to business. The proliferation of nuclear proliferation is back on the table. That's what they're discussing with Russia. In addition to that, Crimea is going to be some chats around it, annexing Crimea, Russia getting in there. Also, Syria. There isn't, like, no matter how this meeting ends, the Democrats are going to call it a fail. They're going to say, you know, nothing came out of it. If something comes out of it, we shouldn't trust Putin. So why would you agree with something? It could be spun to look bad. I found it really interesting that a couple days before this meeting, you had two really big news articles and some indictments of in the Russian meddling case. You know, it's just very peculiar timing for somebody to release that kind of info going into a meeting between two nations. It's been done before. It's not a new tactic. But, you know, there's a lack of trust in Putin and the Russian agenda. And, you know, Donald Trump said, I don't think us getting along with Russia is a bad thing. And some people disagree with that. So those are the both sides of the argument that you got to look at. How will it cause market volatility? Nobody really knows, but I think the key volatility will be happening in the oil market, as you're seeing at the moment, because Russia is building a pipeline directly into Germany to supply crude. And the NATO allies, funny enough, Germany being one of them, are not on board with that. Germany's kind of like a pseudo NATO ally. They haven't really paid much into it. They don't really care to be there, and they don't participate in the meetings. So anywho, Lavrov said on Larry King that a successful meeting, according to Russian agents and diplomats, is one that opens future communications channels. So all they're hoping to achieve out of this is a working relationship so they can talk. It's sort of like you meet a lady or a gentleman in the bar and you say, can I have your number? And they say yes. That's it. You could text them, but now it's up to you what you text. That's what they're hoping to establish. That's been on the agenda. Speaking on oil, that's ongoing right now, by the way, in Helsinki. Speaking of, did we cut out? No. Did we? Just temporary? All right, cool. Thanks. Speaking of oil, we're back to under 7. That's weird. All right. We're back. I'm not going to say the same phrase again because it seems like that's triggering the cut. Oil is below $70, and Saudi Arabia is said to have offered extra crude oil to some of their customers. Also, there's extending additional cargoes out of its ports going into Asia. That's extra supply as well. And here's the real that's scaring oil markets here. The Trump administration has said they're actively looking and considering tapping into their strategic petroleum reserve of the United States. They have 660 million barrels in storage. That's their strategic petroleum reserve. They hold it for special purposes, for contingency plans, for military use. They're planning to tap into that and supply the market in order to push prices lower, because Donald Trump said he wants to lower oil prices. He's getting them. It's on other news. It's on Libya, on Saudi Arabia pushing out more oil, which, by the way, Trump asked the Saudis to do. And they're listening to him because they're strong allies. So at the end of the day, it looks like temporarily oil prices want to gravitate lower. At some point, that's going to make a good long-term buying opportunity. But for the time being, you got to sell rallies and ride the downside. And that's what you got to do. That's your job as a trader. Take advantage of. Oh, all right. Back. I just can't move. I don't know what's going on, guys. You're getting choppy audio. But you can still hear me, hopefully. That's what we got. All right. Last but not least, France wins the World Cup. All right. Beating Croatia, upsetting my father severely. Not that he's Croatian. He just loves an underdog story. That's why I make him proud. Investors are more looking at the results, though, of game statistics. I'd like you guys, you two, the two gentlemen here in the room at trade. Still? All right. They call it football. So this is the battle between Nike and Adidas. Of the 169 goals scored leading up to the finals, who scored more of them? Players wearing Nike cleats or Adidas cleats? Nike? All right. So it looks like we got two. If you guys would have asked me that and my life depended on it, you two would have to take over Trade Pro because I would have. I don't know. I wouldn't have been. I figured out why it's cutting off. It's because it's connected to my phone. Nike, 160 out of 169 goals, 100 of them were scored with Nike cleats. Nike shelled out $56 million to support the French national team. Holy crap, there's money in soccer. I'm going to end it off with that. I just realized this now. You guys take care. Have yourself a great day. Manage your risks, trade like a Trade Pro, and look for some sideways drift in equity. It should pick up volatility as this Trump and Putin summit concludes and we get some hearing out of what's happened. And also watch for oil. Oil is going to single-handedly be the most volatile, active, and opportunistic market for day traders today. Take care and have a great day. Goodbye. 3.9 billion watched the final. It's like the whole world. Well, not really, a quarter of the world. Yeah. Thanks, Marky. It is more than half. It's international sport, or the world sport. That's awesome. My dad was really going for Croatia. I'm like, why, Dad? He's like, nobody expects them to win.